of that statue if you're a Rockies fan. It's the Rockies pregame report. Game 3, Padres and the Rockies coming up soon as we get you back here to Coors Field. And it's time for the Flatiron Subaru Keys to the Game. Corey, I will start with you.
Yeah, mine is you got to capitalize on offensive opportunities. You got to take advantage when James Shields gives you a pitch to hit, because if you don't, he will put you away with his devastating changeup.
Huey?
Well, I got to look at quick and efficient, and I'm talking about Kyle Kendrick. He needs to be efficient with his pitches out there, because you think back to that game in Milwaukee, 7 innings, a lot of easy early ground ball outs. Since then, it's been 5 innings, 4 2/3. He needs to go out tonight and be that innings eater why they signed him, because of the taxing of the bullpen.
Yep, this is a good matchup. It's Kendrick, it's Shields, Shields and Kendrick. It's the Padres and the Rockies. And when we come back on the Rockies pregame report, we got roster moves galore to tell you about. That's on the way next when we come back to you from 20th and Blake.
Wednesday night at the old ballpark. Welcome everybody to 20th and Blake. The Rockies continuing this series against the San Diego Padres, and tonight they're trying to snap a 5-game slide. They enter the ball game at 507-7. The Padres, the new look Padres, off to a very good start. They are at 10-5. Welcome upstairs, everybody. Glad as always that you're along with my partner George Frazier. I'm Drew Goodman. We're ready to go tonight. We have some player moves to tell you about. The Rockies bullpen has been overused, and they had to address that this afternoon.
Well, they had to. They had to get some arms up here, only because of what's transpired in the last 2 ball games against the Padres, plus what they had to use when they were over with the Dodgers. You look at the moves today. Rosario has been shipped to AAA. And again, it's kind of who had options left and what our needs were. They reinstated John Axford. Then they also placed LaTroy Hawkins. Has had a difficult time with his bicep, working back-to-back days, getting loose, being able to throw the hard slider, so the time off hopefully will help. And Scott Olbert was brought back from AAA because of the injury.
Such a key to any team's success, and obviously the Rockies, because of what they went through last year, is good health, and we can bring you some good health news tonight. Dickerson's back in there. Arenado's back in there.
That's big news. That's huge news. You know, everybody talks about last year that, yeah, we lost Troy, we ended up losing Cargo, but when they lost Nolan Arenado at the end of May, That was a huge loss, not only defensively but offensively. And you saw that hole show up last night in the ball game, I thought, more than once or twice. And to have Dickerson's back with his bat on the left side, Cargo's been bumped down to the 6th hole. I think it's all good, and everybody's back at full strength.
Well, it lengthens the lineup. I mean, there's so many ways that it impacts the Rockies in a positive way. Kyle Kendrick will have the baseball for the 4th time today, and he's trying to revisit, George, what he did in the opener in Milwaukee, where he threw 7 shutout innings.
Well, they need it, and I think he's that guy. He's your #1 guy to go out and do that. Against San Diego in his career, 7 ball games. He's made 6 starts, a very fine 4.2 record with a 4.08 earned run average.
Well, nobody's swinging it better collectively than the Padres are in the first couple of weeks of the season. Will Myers will lead things off, and in his new uniform, he's batting .313. Got a home run and 10 RBIs. And one thing we've noticed about this Padre club is they are really aggressive early in the count. You can't throw a cookie to this guy. He's one of the more aggressive guys in the game. And the fastball sinks below the knees, ball 1.
One of Kendrick's problems in his career, he'd only averaged 2.6 walks per 9 innings. In the Rockies uniform, it's been nearly 5 per 9.
And that's in there for a strike. Well, it's not just Kendrick. It's been kind of a systemic thing over the last few days. Obviously, Eddie Butler threw the ball well in L.A., but his previous start, he had walked 6. Last night, Tyler Matzik walked 6.
Yeah, the old walk bug had hit the locker room, kind of like when the flu bug hits for whatever reason.
So you see the contrast between the first start, which was beautiful for Kyle, and the last 2. The one thing about a guy that's done it before and has been doing it for a long period of time, he's not going to panic. He knows who he is. He's a contact pitcher. And he has to hit his spots. He's not going to overwhelm you with, 94, 95, 96 mile an hour stuff where there's a little more margin for error.
Well, I don't think the panic of the staff either. That's the other side of it. They know this is a veteran guy that's thrown an awful lot of innings throughout his career, over 180 in 4 of the last 5 years.
One ball, 2 strikes. It continues on Will Myers. A little change up in the lineup we'll show you for the Padres. There's Yangervis Solarte. He's batting 2nd. He's come off the bench the last couple of nights for Bud Black.
Well, because the right-handers on the mound, 2 left-handers started the first 2 ball games. You saw Barmas in the ball game, which was part of that, and Judge Urco. And tonight, both those guys are getting the night off, but Black chose to go with left-handers in those positions.
Bud's working on his dribbling. Well, it's the NBA playoffs.
He's bored. I probably should put that down before it bounces up and hit me in the face.
Here's the 2-2. And that is foul. Everybody in this game, whether it's players tugging on their batting gloves when they step out in between pitches or managers, have their idiosyncrasies. Clint Hurdle goes through about 3 boxes of gum every night. Clint used to bounce the ball. Remember, he used to bounce the do what Bud did.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys used to chew a lot of tobacco. That's the way they did it. And of course, it's such a huge no-no now. They've gone, like Clint's gone, to the bubble gum. As a lot of players have. Good for them.
Just underway. Will Myers at the plate. Here's a 2-2. That ball is also pulled foul.
8 pitches so far. 6 of those have been thrown for a strike.
30-year-old Kyle Kendrick, 8 years with the Philadelphia Phillies. Outfield with a bit of a shade toward right center. Charlie Blackmon's in the middle. And that pitch on the outside portion of the plate is fouled off. Wait, We're going to check the arsenal. I'm not so sure we haven't seen the whole arsenal in first at bat.
Yeah, with Will Myers, no question about it. The fastball 42% of the time. He'll use the cutter, the sinker, which is a splitter. He'll throw that a little bit. He will show a curve to a left-hander, but the majority of the time it's going to be the cutter and the fastball.
When was the last time you saw a 10-pitch at bat to begin the ball game? That's number 10, and the good hands of Nolan Arenado has it. And he throws out Myers. Now let's take a look at the Southwest batting order for Bud Black this evening. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Solarte, as we were discussing, is batting second. And then it's the big fellas, Matt Kemp and Justin Upton. Yonder Alonso will bat fifth. He's kind of been in that 5, 6, 7 spot throughout this series. Derek Norris was in the 2-hole the first 2 days. He drops down. Will Middlebrooks will bat seventh. Alexi Amarista, his first start as shortstop, will bat eighth in front of big game James Shields. Jim Joyce behind the plate, and he's like Frazier. You can hear him 6 counties away.
When it's dinner time, my kids never missed it. They could hear me.
They may have missed it, but it wasn't because they didn't hear you, right?
Yeah, they heard me.
This ball's in the air to pretty deep right field. Cargo's going back, and it's gone. Solarte with his second home run of the year. And the Padres break on top 1-0.
They came over in the Headley trade a year ago when they sent Headley over to the New York Yankees. Bounced with the Twins through their minor league system, then with the Yankees, and then coming over here in the trade. He came inside with one fastball, a good sinker that he took. The second fastball stayed a little elevated in the zone, almost belt high. You can see a pitch come across that belt area. Well, a lot of left-handers can turn on it. A high, deep drive, it ends up a souvenir.
So here's Matt Kemp. And Kemp lashes one up the middle, but the Rockies had a shift on. DJ is positioned right there. Guys are getting used to that. They probably don't like it much. I mean, how often do you hit one that whizzes by the pitcher and you end up jogging back to the dugout? Normally that's a knock. 2 outs as you look at the Rockies defense. Dickerson, Blackman, Gonzalez, Arenado, Tulowitzki, LeMahieu, Morneau, and Michael McHenry is really the only change. As Michael's doing the catching tonight. Nick Hundley's had a big series against his former club. He'll be back in there, I'm sure, tomorrow afternoon.
Well, to give you an idea of what the Rockies have done this year defensively, using the analytical team that they have here at the ballpark, when it comes down to shifts this season, the Rockies at 59. The league's average about that, 57.1 shifts. The leaders, Tampa Bay, with 199 already. Then you look at the fewest, Texas and St. Louis at 9. St. Louis atop the National League Central.
Tampa Bay 199 times already.
Yeah, how about that?
They're shifting on the pitcher then, huh?
Just trying to think. How many games they played, Dougie? 15? So they're moving. No, that can't be that. Man, that's crazy.
2-strike count on Upton. And this ball's pretty well hit to right field. This one's going to stay in the ballpark. Cargo in front of the track makes the catch. So the Padres get a long ball from Solarte, and they have a 1-0 lead as the Rockies get ready to go on offense. .283, and on-base percentage very nice at .371. Here's the Southwest batting order tonight for the Rockies. Corey Dickerson will bat second. You're going to notice a change. Cargo's been struggling, so he's going to bat sixth for just the fourth time in a Rockies uniform. Tulo, Morneau, and Arenado in the middle. Michael McHenry will bat seventh, DJ eighth, and Kendrick will bat ninth. Dickerson, good numbers against the Padres in his career. This is one of the great workhorses of the game, James Shields, former Ray, former Kansas City Royal, helped lead them to the World Series a year ago, though he lost both of his starts in the Fall Classic. Good arm, George, and a good changeup.
He's got a good idea what he's doing when he's out on the mound. That's what I like about James Shields. He's not afraid to challenge guys. He goes right at people. He expects to complete what he starts. You know, you look back, it's a pretty interesting statistic. You look back, he had 11 complete games in 2011. The last time anybody got double digits, Randy Johnson had 12 in 1999. It was 12 years earlier.
2-0 on Charlie.
He's had a couple of starts here at Coors Field. 1-1 with a .525 earned run average. The Rockies have hit .313.
He beat the Rockies last year, threw a really good ball game against Colorado a year ago when he was playing for the Royals. Rio's in there, 3-1. Blackman 1 for 6 against Shields. And that's in there also.
Well, he's been around for a while. 16th round draft pick.
He was scheduled to go to LSU. It's a little deceiving. He's one of those guys that signability was a concern for a lot of teams because he was rated one of the 16 best high school players when he came out his senior year. He's a Southern California kid, and he decided to turn down LSU and sign with Tampa.
Big, strong kid. He stayed at the big league level with Tampa, 217 starts. He won 87 games there in a trade with Kansas City, where he went on to be 27-17. He had 11 starts in the postseason, 3-6, with a .546 earned run average.
And this ball lifted to center field. Will Myers barely has to move, one out. Here the Padres with the leather. Justin Upton in left, Myers in center, Kemp in right. That has been their outfield throughout this series. Middlebrooks at third again. Amarista and Solarte, so they change up the middle. And Yonder Alonso at first. Derek Norris has caught all 3 ball games. With one out, Corey Dickerson will step up. Dickerson 0 for 6 with 3 punch outs when facing Shields. And Corey, like Cargo, trying to extract himself from a slump. Corey 1 for his last 18. He did pinch hit last night in the 9th inning and grounded out. This ball's pretty well hit. Myers thought about coming in. Bad idea. It's gone. Out of the way, Corey Dickerson. Tie up the ball game. Get yourself out of a slump with one big swing.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about running too hard either on that foot. That's a good thing. He hit it that far, and that is the deepest part of the ballpark. Hit it about 10 rows up, 415 feet from home plate.
Third home run for Dickerson, tying Arenado for the club lead early.
Super Bowl lets you know that it's a low fastball. Left-handers dropping the hammer and letting it fly, and that's exactly what Corey did into left center field. On a cool night, the ball has traveled well here early at Coors Field. Way to go, Corey.
That was hit a long way. Tulowitzki took a pitch high and in. It's ball 1 on Troy, hitting .327 with a home run and 8 RBIs. Out in front a little bit. Amarista going out, but Upton will make the play. 2 outs. Justin Morneau has a lot of experience facing James Shields from their time together in the American League. 47 at bats, good numbers. He's batting .319 with 4 home runs against Shields. Shields brings you a couple things. One, you know he's going to take the baseball every 5th day and he's going to work deep into the ball game. And the other thing is he has a great reputation in the clubhouse. This is back up the middle, and the average goes up a little bit more for Justin Morneau against James Shields.
Well, a lot of credit was given to James Shields in St. Louis with helping Ventura, helping Herrera, all the young guys, in Kansas City, helping all the young guys, help mature them to get them over the hump and get that ball club going in the right direction. Kansas City made a run at him, but just not enough.
So Morneau aboard for Nolan Arenado.
That's just kind of strange, you know. Will Myers gets traded for James Shields. Now they're teammates in San Diego together.
It's funny how it works that way. Arenado 4 for 5 with a home run against Shields last year. Stay hot. Well, true to his word, Nolan told us during batting practice yesterday, there's no way I'm not playing tomorrow.
Well, he wanted to get in last night's ball game.
Keith Duggar and Scotty Garrett have that left wrist wrapped.
From my experience talking to hitters, a lot of times they have a little bit of a wrist injury like this. It's not the contact swing that hurts. It's when they miss the baseball. You know, they don't have that resistance of the ball meeting the bat. So, I mean, it's the swing and miss that bother more than the contact.
This ball driven toward right center field. This is going to touch down, kiss off the wall. Morneau toward third. Stu Cole gives him a green light. Here comes the big first baseman. Throw is high, safe at the plate. Arenado to third. 2-1 Colorado. Welcome back, Nolan. It'll be scored a double, and Nolan has his 11th RBI.
Oh, what a big RBI it is, too. That'll make you put a smile on your face. The way the Rockies got beat last night in the first game, you're going against the best pitcher in the rotation. You answer it right back. Boy, what a good swing here on a pitch that was down and in. Nolan drives it into right center, just a few feet shy of leaving the ballpark. And Morneau with 2 outs rounded third base. Solarte got the relay from the center fielder Myers, and then his throw high, or they may have had a play on Justin Morneau.
2 outs, Cargo at the plate. Cargo has good numbers, 5 for 9 against Shields. He got jammed, and this is to shallow center. Amarista retreats and makes the catch. So the Rockies with a very impressive bottom of the first against Shields. The home run from Dickerson got it going. And then the run scoring double from Nolan Arenado, 2-1 Rockies. Town Toyota stores, let's go places, and by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Good start on offense for the Rockies. They got after big game James Shields. 2-1 they lead. Home run by Dickerson. Booming double to right center by Nolan Arenado, the two guys that had to sit out last night.
Yeah, how about that? Two guys got a night off. They come back and play a big influence on this game early.
Yonder Alonso takes outside from Kyle Kendrick, ball one. Dickerson has been 0 for 6 with 3 punch-outs against Shields in the past. And that's a base hit for Alonso. He's off to a really good start. I think it helps when you have so many terrific hitters around you, not only from the contagious standpoint, but you're probably going to see more decent pitches, where last year probably could pitch around him was him and Grandal and not a whole lot of friends.
No, Jerko was there too, but it allows, we talked about this first couple of ball games with the Padres. They can rearrange that lineup, take pressure off of him.
If Kendrick can get one on the ground here, Derek Norris at the plate. Everywhere you look in the Padre lineup, it looks like what you normally see from the Rockies. Everybody hitting over 300. That's going to find Arenado's glove. That is outstanding. George, I'm ready to say that's in left field, a base hit. How about that play?
That's the other thing you miss. I mean, you missed him last night on a couple of plays, and then now tonight he's able to come out here early. But if you watched here at 2 o'clock this afternoon, he was working on this various play just like this. Running after the baseball, the snap hard throw to DJ, and then on to first base. 16th double play they've turned or hit into, and that's the San Diego Padres, which is the most in the National League so far. A helping hand to Kyle Kendrick and the Rockies. Boy, those gold gloves, aren't they nice to have hanging around?
Folks, I don't think you understand how good a play that was. That was an in-between hop. He actually fields it, behind where his eyes are. Stabs it. It looked like it was ticketed to go in that 5.5 hole, and it's going to be first and second, maybe first and third, nobody out. Instead, 2 outs, and Will Middlebrooks at the plate. On the ground, you're going to try Arenado again. Long throw, strong throw. Just showing off now, isn't he? What a start, offensively and defensively, for Nolan Arenado. Nobody better. 2-1 Rockies. lead 2-1. We go to the bottom of the second, bottom third of the order for the Rockies. Michael McHenry will lead it off. Rockies fans, you can join the conversation this year. Send us your thoughts and photos via Twitter, Instagram. Use Facebook if you desire. Also use the hashtag Toyota Talk, and we'll get to as many thoughts as we can throughout the ball game. Brought to you each night again by Toyota. 1-0 on Michael McHenry.
But double play shortens so much up. You know, there's been a lot of emphasis. We've shown you a lot of different graphics on what the bullpen has been able to do or had to eat up.
That's down the line, George. How about that? McHenry's going to hustle his way to second. A leadoff double from Michael.
Yeah, both Rockies catchers swung the bat well. Michael not getting to play as much, obviously, with the success of Hundley and what he's done with the pitching staff, but it's nice to get that double. Wow, high fastball up into the zone. Matty Pace shot it right down the left field line. 92 mile an hour fastball. Shot it right by Will Middlebrooks down into the corner. They'll make him pay for it. Get the right guy up. I was going to say, Kendrick only threw 7 pitches with that double play in the second inning. That's outstanding.
DJ LeMahieu batting a cool .417. Home run, 9 ribbies for DJ. That's in there for a strike. One of the reasons for DJ's success, he's handling off-speed pitches exceptionally well. This ball bounced past a diving Middlebrooks down the line. Here comes McHenry. He'll score into seconds. LeMahieu back-to-back doubles. 3-1 Rockies.
10 RBIs now for DJ LeMahieu. For the bottom half of that order. Doing a good job. DJ leading the way, obviously, with what he's been able to do. Yeah, look, I mean, Middlebrooks made a step and a dive, and the ball just hopped through him, and that's a good thing. You see, he's well off of that line. If you're going to pitch in with a sinker, you better defend it the same way. He doesn't do that. DJ pulls it out of his reach into the corner. Easy for McHenry to turn the corner and get to the house. DJ's now 8 for 14 with runners in scoring position. 871 average, or 571 average. Wow.
Kendrick pulls the bat back, ball 1, trying to advance DJ another 90 feet with nobody out. Just a little subtle change, George. If the ball's in, he's going to turn on it. Kind of crosses up the game plan when you pitch against him, where it was always everything's inside out, inside out. Now, he does hit the ball to right field as well as anybody, but we've also seen him turn on some baseballs here in the early going.
Well, and you got to pitch to the defense. Your catcher sets up on the outside corner. You run a fastball, miss inside. He's able to burn you with it.
Kendrick's been swinging the bat well. He was given an opportunity there by Walt Weiss. And LeMahieu takes off for third. He's out. That's got to be, I would assume, DJ making the read on his own.
Well, I think so. I mean, you're going off the timing of James Shields. Is it a good time to steal third? Nobody out, runner at second, top of the order coming up? Probably not. But he got a pretty good lead there. But Derek Norris came up firing. He threw a bullet right to Middlebrooks and the tag applied.
Yeah, you hate it because there's nobody out. And that old line about you don't want to make the first or third out at third. You have Shields, who's the ace of this Padres staff, on his heels in the early going. 2 outs.
Well, the bad part about it is you're up 2-1 already, or 3-1 at the time with a runner at second base and nobody out and your pitcher's up. If he strikes out, you still got a chance with this lineup with Blackman and Dickerson to drive in a run. Instead of that, the bases are empty at 2 outs. Rockies in the first 9 games had hit .333 with runners in scoring position. The last 5, of course, a lot has to do with the competition too. You had Kershaw, you had Greinke, and improved McCarthy. The first 2 games here against the Padres, they'd hit .259, 7 for 27. Well, that's picked up a little bit here tonight.
Charlie hit a fly ball to center field an inning ago. Takes outside, ball 1.
Well, that's why a lot of people say, what is the history, of Kyle Kendrick against the Padres? Well, you can look at the history numbers, but it's not the same Padres. So you got to go, what's his history against Matt Kemp? What's his history against Upton? Because different teams, now they're all on that same team.
Yeah, really any comparison to last year's Padres is completely irrelevant. One and two the count. Rockies began the inning with back-to-back doubles from McHenry and LeMahieu. Up 3-1. Colorado had a 5-2 lead yesterday, and the bullpen could not hold it. They ended up losing 7-6. And Shields gets the strikeout of Blackmon. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Shields, but the Rockies are up by a couple of runs early. Today to bolster their bullpen, Willeen Rosario ends up being the odd man out as the Rockies will carry just 4 on their bench right now. He was optioned to AAA. John Axford, great news, reinstated today. LaTroy Hawkins has some bicep tendonitis. He was placed on the DL. Scott Oberg comes back. Alexi Amarista will lead off here in the top of the 3rd inning, and he fouls this off. Walt Weiss was asked about the flurry of moves earlier today.
Our hands were tied on this one. You know, has nothing to do with Willeen's performance. We really didn't have any other choice with Arenado being banged up, Dickerson being banged up, and needing an extra arm in the bullpen. It was really the only possible move we could make.
So and that's right. I mean, that's a tough move for them. You can't send out Inoa. You got to have that infield hand here. You've got to have Del Scalzo, your only left-handed guy off the bench here. So there's a lot of reasons why this went the way it did. McHenry's your backup. He's out of options. You can't send him down without putting him on waivers, so he's not going anywhere. So, I mean, it's just a difficult time to be able to do that. Drew Stubbs, your 4th outfielder.
And Rosario, again, that's why Walt emphasized, had nothing to do with performance. He's 5 of 14. He's given good at bats. He won a ball game for him in Milwaukee in extra innings. And he's the one, real big bat that the other dugout's going to fear late in a ball game, because he can go deep from foul line to foul line.
That's exactly right. And I mean, that's the reason he was here. That's the reason he made the ball club out of spring training, because of his ability to leave the yard and do it in a hurry.
1-2 sliders down low. 2-2 on Amarista in front of James Shields here in the 3rd inning. 3-1 Colorado. On the ground to first, and there were no flips to Kendrick for the out. Well, great news that John Axford has been removed from the restricted list. The reason he's able to come back is we can tell you that his son, Jameson, went home from the hospital today. So just tremendous news for the Axford family. And talked briefly to John about that. He said he's so excited he's home and he's playing with all his toys.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
he's a little boy. He's 2.5.
I mean, that's the reality check in life when you're a ball player. I mean, you know, everybody thinks things like this don't happen to them. They do. And you know, boy, that's great news.
Back up the middle, DJ on the backhand. Pretty throw. 2 outs. Shields is retired.
And Shields could swing the bat a little bit, folks. So 280 last year. You see this play up the middle. Not easy by DJ, but again, that Gold Glove shows up once again.
Yeah, he was a prospect, George, not only as a pitcher in high school, he was a prospect as a hitter. He had 11 home runs his senior year in high school.
Oh, he could swing the bat.
He was the LA City in his junior year player of the year. Will Myers, 2 outs, nobody on. And Will takes a strike. Myers was up there for a half hour to begin the ball game. We timed it.
He had 10 pitches he hit.
Finally hit one to Nolan at third. More humble, unassuming, underappreciated player, DJ LeMahieu. That's him. It's funny because I asked DJ about always being so even keel. Conversation we had on the road trip. And he kind of laughed and he said, I don't look at myself that way. He goes, to me, I'm like a roller coaster ride inside. It's just nobody sees it.
No, that's the thing about it. There's not a lot of expression from him. That last tweet sent in by Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post. You know, it's funny. I've been fishing with him 2 or 3 times at my favorite fishing holes. And you never even know he's fishing from you 15 feet away either. Other than getting any bites, that's about all you hear out of him for about an hour and a half.
Pretty quiet.
Yeah.
One, 2. Myers is gone. Well, nice inning for Kyle Kendrick. A 1-2-3 inning for Kyle. And the Rockies have the 3-1 lead at Coors Field. It'll be first. He hit a home run to dead center back in the first inning. Who wants tacos? If the Rockies score 7 or more, go to participating Colorado Taco Bell locations the next day between 4 and 6 to get your Rockies taco special. Liv Moss at Taco Bell. So Dickerson batting in that 2 spot. Cargo's been dropped to the 6 spot. James Shields has allowed the 3 runs on 5 hits. Corey with that home run, now a career .359 average against the Padres.
Boy, he got it. Dead center field. He got that low fastball moving away from him from James Shields and made him pay for it. So much bat speed. You know, when you can swing really hard and control your eyesight and the steadiness of your head and stay on a baseball that long, it's going to put a hurt to the rawhide a lot.
That ball cuts way inside. 2-1. Eric Stoltz pitched briefly with the Rockies.
Yep.
Now the Padres. He's got 9 lives. He's pitching for Atlanta tonight,
Well,
George.
you know what? He had some pretty good. Unfortunately, the record didn't show it. But he actually pitched pretty well. I mean, he's got a lead right now in New York, 2-1. It's in the 6th inning.
Solarte throws out Dickerson. League leaders are brought to you by your Colorado Hyundai dealers. Check this out. Since 2007, nobody has thrown more innings than James Shields. Felix Hernandez is close. Then you have Verlander, Dan Herron, Cole Hamels. And one of the interesting things about this ball's pulled foul by Tulo about Shields, you go back to 2002, George, very early in his professional career, he had major shoulder surgery. Most guys who have shoulder surgery, it's usually a red flag going forward. Guys made, 200 innings, you can just print it for him every year.
What I would do if I was somebody with a hurt shoulder, I'd call James Shields and say, "Who's your doctor?" Boy, that ball's ripped to the corner by Tulowitzki.
Upton's playing really deep, so he was able to cut that off. Tulo's digging for second, and he slides around the tag. Mr. Double this year so far, Troy Tulowitzki. Good hustle there by Troy.
Taking a look at this pitch, trying to come down and into Tulowitzki. It stayed up about belt high, and he just shot it over the third baseman's head. Middlebrooks down into that corner. As Upton goes over to backhand this baseball, come up firing. That ball had a lot of tail to it, or they may have had a shot at Tulowitzki at second base, but Tulo slid to that outfield side, feet first, well out of the reach of Amarista.
Troy's 9th double. That's first in the league, one in front of Adrian Gonzalez. Good swing there, but the line drive right at Justin Upton. So Morneau's retired. 2 gone. That'll bring up Arenado, who cranked a double of his own to right center field his first time up. Arenado's 7th double of the year. Rockies haven't hit a flurry of home runs yet. You know it's coming. They have 12 home runs coming into the ball game. They hit one earlier with Dickerson, so they're at 13. Padres have hit 14 so far, actually 15, because they had one early from Solarte.
As far as extra base hits, 34 doubles, 5 triples.
One guy, Natalie retired. Buddy next to him. He's got the got the nice beard going and the Doug Marino hairdo. That'll move Tulowitzki up.
That's going to ricochet away from Norris. When he does, tries to backhand the slider. It got a little bit short on him, and it caught the heel of the glove, bounced away. Tulowitzki very alertly watching the ball go towards their dugout, jogged to third. Now, as Nolan always does, he grinds out at bats, particularly men in scoring position and 2 outs. He has 6 of his 11 RBIs have come with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position.
He chased there. It's 2-2. 5 for 6 against James Shields. Rockies have a 3-1 lead, 6 hits already against James Shields, who came in with a 2-0 record and a 2.84 ERA. And he did not get a piece of that, so it's strike 3. Rockies get a double from Tulowitzki. They leave him at third base, 3-1 as we go to the 4th. Smart, safe, and fun to drive for. To escape, go further by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com and by CenturyLink, your link to what's next. So far, so good at Coors Field. Rockies trying to end that 5-game slide. They thought they had it done last night. They had a 5-2 lead in the latter third of the ball game, but the pen unable to hold it. Jan Harvey's Solarte hit a home run his first time up. He's batting second tonight in Bud Black's lineup. Kemp and Upton to follow against Kyle Kendrick. This ball pulled right at Justin Morneau, 1 out. And that'll bring up Matt Kemp.
Now, if you're looking to come out to the ball game, there's always great Rockies ticket deals available. So bookmark Rockies.com/specials and check back throughout the entire season.
Matt Kemp went to a big-time Oklahoma City Power, Midwest City High School. Talked about his basketball exploits, part of a state championship team there. Gives Tulo some practice. Another quick out.
Well, when you're throwing quality strikes and you're staying down in the zone, you got a little sink to the fastball, the changeup is down, and you're doing it against an aggressive swinging team. It makes your innings so much easier. And 35 pitches in, that's a good sign. 3 2/3 innings. That's a pretty sight.
So far, this resembles more the guy we saw in Miller Park opening up the season. Justin Upton at the plate. Fly ball to right in the first inning. And this is chopped to third. This could be a tough play. And to get rid of it in one motion. Out at first. What a play. He had to retreat to get a decent hop. Arenado got rid of it in a hurry and got a guy who can run in Justin Upton. What a play by Arenado.
Boy, is this fun to watch. You see this backhand, and that's that arm strength, off balance throw, and a pick at first.
Rockies up 3-1, 2 in the first. They added a run in the second. Tulowitzki had a double in the third inning. So the Rockies swinging the bat. With every challenge call, the Subaru eyesight review will determine the outcome. Love, it's what makes a Subaru. Cargo takes outside, ball one. 3 on the right side for Cargo, who popped out his first time up. It's in a difficult slump right now.
I went to the slow curve. Now coming back, changeup with him. Trying to get him out on that front foot. Misses away from Cargo.
He's seen that a lot, guys, pitching him backwards. You know, Cargo has that upbeat demeanor every day, regardless of how things are going. Here's the 2-0. And I like what he said after the ball game yesterday. You know, he's been asked a lot about the fact that, you know, after the Milwaukee series, he's really cooled off. And he said, I know this. I've played baseball long enough. I feel great first and foremost. I'm going to have weeks I hit 400. He said, so we're going to be okay.
Well, I said, you know, some guys start the year out hitting 550. Other guys start the season out hitting 0. But by the end of the year, the numbers didn't seem to be there of what you are and who what you are. And I think that's where he's at. I think he's very comfortable within himself right now.
So a leadoff walk to Gonzalez on 4 pitches. Mike McHenry will come up. Mike had a double down the left field line in the second inning. Would come around to score when DJ hit a double in virtually the same spot. Big swing from McHenry. Cargo's been a 20-20 guy, close to a 30-30 guy in his career. And the legs we saw during March are feeling great. We always point out the time where he nearly went first to third on a wild pitch in spring training. Thrown out on a really close call. 0-2.
Go back and you look at the big strikeout that he had of Arenado with Tulowitzki at third base. It was on the hard breaking ball. It was not on the fastball. And 2 straight breaking balls to McHenry, and he's ahead in the count 0-2.
Not typically a running count. And on 3 pitches, 3 breaking balls, he strikes out McHenry.
It's an unusual setup in his delivery after he receives his sign from the catcher with the runner at first base. And with all the movement, it's going to be difficult to him. You know, some guys halfway through their set, as they're going to their set position, will pick to first base before becoming set. You got to have really quick feet to do that. But if you watch how he sets up, we'll watch it right here. See it? The kind of the bend over, look, turn. You got to be an acrobat to be able to throw over there at any period in between all of that, just because of all the movement that he has with his front side. You know, all the pressure's out on that front leg. You can't very well jump now, then the swing back. So you got to wait till you get in that set position to make a move.
Changed his delivery time also. He went much quicker that time. He was 1-2-6 to the plate 2 pitches ago. You're under 1-3.
Yeah, 1-3-5.
Hard to run against.
1-3-5, and even if you got a great catcher behind the plate, you can squeeze it out to 1-4. The 1-3-5 is kind of the mark you want to be at, and still have good command of home plate. I mean, it's one thing to be quick to the plate, but if you can't command it at home plate.
Fargo tried to break this up, and he got into the second baseman Solarte, but he still made an accurate throw to end the inning. So it's a 6-4-3 turn. Rockies lead 3-1 as we go to the 5th inning. Dream House raffle, your chance to win a $2.5 million home or $2 million in cash. Also help out a wonderful cause. Visit milehighraffle.com for more information. And we're going to get a lot more information right now because we have the general with us, John Barry, who been kind enough to join us. And I remember visiting with you last year. You're an old Bronx native, aren't you?
I grew 6 blocks away from Yankee Stadium, right? You're right.
Well, I know you're a hardcore baseball fan. It's always good to be at the ballpark, especially with the Rockies out in front here as Kendrick gets ready to go. This Dream House raffle, this has become, and that's the big prize, but there's so many other prizes. This has really become a great fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club.
7th year, we got the Trusted Element, a $2.4 million home, and 1,100 gifts.
1,100 gifts.
1,100 gifts. So your odds are 1 in 30 now, based on what we've sold so far. So it ends this Friday. This Friday is the last day you can buy a ticket.
Okay, we're going to mention this a few times. So you go to milehighraffle.com. You get all your information there. How much are tickets?
$150.
Okay.
A single ticket, and your chances better than odds in Las Vegas by far.
So that's for one. Do you have the multi-ticket
yeah, we got
opportunity this year too?
You can get a 5, you can get to $400, and it goes from there. So it's a great opportunity for people to take a chance and do a great thing for kids.
We at Root Sports back when we were Fox Sports. That's in there. Strike on Yonder Alonso as well, 2-2. We've been involved with the girls and boys clubs for a long time, and to see the young folks that it impacts, and kids honestly from tough socioeconomic backgrounds, a place to go after school, and it's not just to play, it's also to get a further bit of education as well, do homework and computer labs.
Exactly.
It's not the Boys and Girls Clubs I think that I grew up with.
Well, academics and career, character and leadership development, and healthy lifestyle choices. Those are our 3 major pillars that we go. So the kids are focused on the elements that maximize their potential, and that's what we strive for.
Ground ball to the sure-handed Justin Morneau. Good flip over to Kyle Kendrick. 1 out. Well, if you're the big winner, you win a $2.5 million Dream House. You may be wondering, what does this palace look like? Now that's kind of like the foyer, just a little place. That's a good-sized kitchen. Tell me, I hope that's the master bedroom.
7,000 square feet. 5 bedrooms. 5 bathrooms, and is right situated in a beautiful part of Denver where you get easy access to all the stores and all the shopping.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. How many years have you guys done?
7 years now. And trusted, we have wonderful elements. Now, Friday's the last day. We pick the final drawings on May 8th.
Okay, so your time's running out because it's Wednesday, so you have about 48 hours to go. I have some stats, and I know you have a ton of these. 89% of the members are economically disadvantaged, qualifying for free or reduced lunch. 90% are, racial or ethnic minorities, and 55% live in a single-parent home, or perhaps just a home with a guardian, and not somebody related to them. So you're talking about kids that have been dealt a tough hand. And this is helping change lives.
And we put our Boys and Girls Club where they're most needed. So we have 17 facilities, including 1 in the mountains, and 8 are in schools, and 8 are freestanding buildings. So we serve 11,000 kids.
If I recall, John, a year ago, it may go back now a couple of years, you guys were in the process of building another new Boys and Girls Club. Where is that? Where's the progress?
Yeah, we finished the capital campaign this year, and it's at Commerce City, so it'll be open this fall for kids when they start school up at Commerce City.
That's
a brand
awesome.
new club.
That's awesome. Will Middlebrooks is at the plate with 1 strike. Now, if you miss this opportunity, hopefully you don't. Hopefully you're able to take advantage over the next couple of days. Maybe you're somebody at home who says, you know what, I have free time. Maybe I don't have great financial resources, but I'd like to help out. How can somebody become involved with the Boys and Girls Club?
Just contact us on the website. You can volunteer. We have part-time employees. We have full-time employees. Of course, we have an increase in the summertime when we start having, because we have more kids. We're open from the end of school during the school year till about 9 o'clock. And during the summertime, we're open from 9 o'clock to 5 p.m.
2 strikes on Middlebrooks, and that's going to drop in front of Cargo in right center field. He cuts it off, holds him to a single. And with 2 outs, Alexi Amarista will come up. Well, for a number of years, the Colorado Rockies, we at Root Sports have put on a clinic for kids at one of your real good facilities. It's off of Florida, am I right? How's my memory?
Owens Club.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, those kinds of donations and also time that people put in, like yourself and the ball players. Cargo comes out quite a bit, you know, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the kids to have a role model, and then 2, have an opportunity to see how a real pro ball player works.
Well, General, and if people are saying, well, why is Goodman calling John Barry General? This is a 2-star general. He's out of uniform right now. Retired. But thank you, first of all, for your service.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for all you do at the Boys and Girls Club.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thanks to everybody in the audience. You know, go Rockies.
Rockies leading 3-1 behind the guy who's at the plate right now, Kyle Kendrick. Before that single by Middlebrooks, had retired 10 in a row, so he's in a good place. The Rockies 3 runs, 6 hits against James Shields, who's unbeaten in his new uniform. First time in his career pitching in the National League. George, you bounced around a little bit. You pitched in the National League, the American League, back to the National League, back to the American League. When you finished up with the Twins, winning a World Series in '87. Now, you were a reliever, but was it an adjustment getting there, know the hitters again, that sort of thing?
Not for the hitters so much for me as it was the umpiring. Because, when I came up, I'm kind of dating myself, they still were wearing the outside protector. And so, the low strike didn't get called in the American League, where in the National League it did. And strangely enough. So that was the biggest adjustment for me.
2-1 on Kendrick. And that's low, 3-1. Well, Jim Joyce, one of the top umpires in the game, is in his 28th years behind the plate. He's worked 3 World Series. He's the crew chief. First full year was 1989 for Jim. And he's got to put a throat lozenge in at the end of the night, doesn't he?
No. I guarantee he sits around in January and his wife's like, will you stop getting his throat in shape?
Way inside. Shields spins around. He's upset with himself. Snaps the glove as he gets the return throw from Norris. He just walked Kyle Kendrick.
The first 15,000 to the gate Saturday. You're going to receive a Vinny Castilla drink beverage wrap. Brought to you all by Donate Life Colorado. Pretty neat little thing coming up. You can see here that it'll all be given away to you, so make sure you're one of the first 15,000 when you get to the backside. Vinny Castilla, number 9, pretty neat. So make sure you get out to the ballpark and you'll get one of these. And if you're one of the first 15,000, you'll get one.
I like them.
No, you can't have it. No.
You always, whenever we get the promotional things, you always steal them.
Put your coffee in it.
I want my coffee hot.
Stay warm.
Right now,
It'll stay hot in there. That's it.
You know what? I'll talk to Vinny. Maybe he'll sign that for you.
He'll sign it for you. You need that.
Oh, you know what? Kendrick just went old school, George. Nobody does this anymore. Remember, the pitcher got on. It could be 98 degrees in St. Louis in the summer. He had to put the jacket on.
Right.
Kendrick just put the jacket on.
Well, it's 49 degrees here at the ballpark right now. It's a little different day here. It's not July.
Charlie takes outside. Fly ball to center field and a strikeout. Do you remember, though, when you were playing, George, it was like automatic.
Yeah, guys did that all the time. I mean, they just timeout. Got to get the jacket. Who was it a couple of years ago? We tried to put a hooded sweatshirt on her. Like, no, that doesn't work. You can have a jacket. You can't put the hoodie on and run the bases.
Hey, Little League, man, if it's cold, you can wear that over your uniform.
Well, they play in them.
Yeah. This ball is right to second, and Amarista turns a double play. Second time in 2 innings that Shields has had a double play turned behind him. 2 outs. That'll bring up Dickerson, who homered back in the first inning. Corey with that home run in the first now has 32 career home runs and 681 at bats. I bet you when you look at the next 600 and some odd at bats, he'll probably have about 40 home runs.
Yeah, 40 more.
Yeah, I mean 32 is pretty good in your first 600.
Yeah, but I'm saying he'll
at bats.
have another 40, 45 instead of 32.
They're going to increase. That's basically a little more than a full season. That gives you an idea what kind of power he has.
I see Shields shaking off on an 0-1 count. They went to it 2 or 3 different times. Breaking ball away in the dirt. Even the count at 1-1. Carlos Quentin signed a minor league contract with the Seattle Mariners.
See, he's one of those guys, George. I mean, he's got knee issues. He's better suited to being in the American League where he can DH. But when we saw him last year, when he was on the field, he can still swing it. That's a scary bat.
Well, that's a scary bat. That's what they want. They want a right-handed DH bat, something they can run in the outfield against a tough left-hander. Just go get yourself in shape and be ready to go.
He was part of the Melvin Upton trade.
More of a swap of money than anything. Melvin came over with Kimbrel. They inherited all of his money, and they said, all right, we'll take Melvin's, but you got to take Quentin's. Quentin was designated before he even got his bags back.
Three and one on Corey. And another walk. Unlike Shields, he's walked 3 of the last 6 hitters. And that'll allow Tulowitzki to swing it here. Troy doubled in the 3rd. Melvin Upton is in extended spring. He's still wearing a boot, but he's hitting off a tee and trying to get healthy again. Inside, a ball and a strike. Rockies have gotten off to a very good start on the road. They're 6-3. Obviously lost their last 3 games on the road, all in LA, but just 1-4 here at 20th and Blake.
Had a little late cut on that fastball too. It looked like he was right on it at 91. Watch this pitch out of the hand on the Subaru Super Bowl. So the last cut there until just under. That's the pitch he really likes to extend. That's the ball he drives into right center field.
And this gets thrown away. Dickerson may get to third on this. He will easily. Two-base throwing error on James Shields.
Yeah, he tried to make that snap throw over to first. He may have snapped it right back by Alonso. You know, 1-2 count, not wanting to allow Dickerson to steal a base, even with the slight foot injury. That ball thrown well behind Dickerson, and then Dickerson just takes off. And looking over the shoulder a little bit to make that decision. He's going to pick up Stu and come on over to third base rather easily.
Tulowitzki a chance to make it 4-1.
2-out RBI is huge to a winning team. Crowd trying to get behind Tulo. Hope he comes up with that big base hit. This year, .462 average with runners in scoring position, 6 for 13.
2 for 7 lifetime against Shields. Here's the 1-2, strike 3. Froze him. So Shields' error does not hurt. The Rockies lead 3-1, and we move on to inning number 6. Recap. Solarte hit a home run against Kendrick in the first. Since then, Kendrick has been terrific. 12 of 17 first pitch strikes. And the Rockies in the early going really got after James Shields. 2 in the first and 1 in the second. Dickerson hit his 3rd home run in that first inning. And Arenado has been a terror both ways tonight again. He's made a couple of outstanding defensive plays in addition to an RBI double. So here we go in the 6th inning, and Kendrick, true to form, has the first pitch in there for a strike against Shields.
Boy, that's a big swing. Holy cow.
Yeah, swung over the top of that changeup.
You know, there's pitchers that you have to pitch like position guys. Shields one of those guys.
Oh, and 2. 1 out. So Kendrick's retired 12 of 13.
Yeah, one of the reasons the Rockies signed him, at 32 starts last year. 66% of the time he went at least 6 innings. 21 out of 32. That's big.
Will Myers at a High Point, North Carolina. Royals drafted him in the 3rd round. He was, like so many guys, we're talking about Shields, what a great high school career he had offensively. Will Myers was 10-0 his junior year on the hill. He threw 90 plus, but he also hit .532 with 14 home runs.
Made the right choice.
Looks that way.
Yeah, if he ever gets to that point where he just can't ever hit the slider again, maybe he thinks about going back to the mound.
I've seen several guys go the other way after pitching for a while.
Mostly shortstops. Ismael Rogers comes to mind, signed as a shortstop. Rafael Betancourt signed as a shortstop.
One and two. Ricky and Keel, the most notable guy to do it in recent memory.
That was a huge stage, man. He went from on the hill.
Give you another guy, George, that we see quite a bit. Now he never got to the big leagues as a pitcher, but David Peralta, pitcher, released.
I'll tell you another
the
guy.
Cardinal organization comes back as a hitter is pretty good.
Well, the other guy was Jason Lane with the Padres. Yeah, he got to the big leagues last year at 38 years old as his left-handed starter.
That just missed. 3-2 on Myers.
He's got a little bit. It looks a little bit like Dale Murphy. You know that? Big, tall guy with his swing, but facial expressions. I mean, he looks a little bit like Dale Murphy.
I
he
agree
does.
with you. 6'3", about 205. And this ball's lifted to deep center field by Myers, and it is gone. Now, Will Myers just made it a one-run game with his second home run of the year.
RBIs to go along with those 2 home runs. He worked to a 3-2 count. Really didn't know how he took that 2-2 changeup. It was a good pitch from Kyle Kendrick. And he got into that 3-2 mode, and he got a pitch that he could do something with here. I mean, that ball stayed up out of the strike zone. You see McKendry drop to that knee thinking, I want that pitch down and away and out of the zone. Carried all the way out of the center field fence.
The other guy with a home run is at the plate right now, Yangervis Solarte, and he takes a strike. You see the good extension Myers got through that baseball. Two runs, 4 hits for the Padres, 3 runs, 6 hits for the Rockies. We're in the 6th inning. Remember Roger Cedeno, right, George?
Sure.
That's his Solarte's uncle. He tells a story about being 4 years old. Roger got called to the big leagues. He got on a plane. That was his buddy, and he cried the whole day. Didn't know where his uncle was going. 1-2 on Solarte. Strike 3 on the corner. Good pitch.
Remember that the fastball that he hit out was on the middle half of the plate. Kendrick really made a good pitch here. 88-mile-an-hour fastball right on the outside corner on the knees. Jim Joyce agreed with it all. A couple of strikeouts in the ball game for Mr. Kendrick.
So Matt Kemp with 2 outs and nobody on in a 1-run ball game. A high fly ball to deep right center field. Cargo puts the glove out. He's in range and he makes the catch. In the inning, Will Myers on a 3-2 pitch hits a home run to center field, and the Rockies lead down to 1. 6th inning. Log on to CFD Rodeo /Blake Shelton for your chance to win tickets to see Blake Shelton in concert Friday the 17th of July at Cheyenne Frontier Days. It is summer's largest country music festival, in addition to one of the great rodeos in the world. Here's Morneau. Justin has hit the ball hard twice. He has a base hit and a line out to left field. He also has a broken bat now. Ball on the ground, 2 hops to the second baseman Solarte. Rockies had their 6 hits in the first 3 innings. They've had base runners in every inning. Check this out. The Rockies Single A affiliate, the Sally League, Asheville, they're selling chicken and fries on a waffle cone topped with cheese. It has the cholesterol level of...
That's some good stuff right there.
Well,
have you ever been to Roscoe's with the brown gravy, where you get the waffle and the chicken and they pour the brown gravy? Well, you wouldn't eat it, but brown gravy, oh, that is something else.
I haven't, but I'll let you tell me all about it.
Paul Egan's took me. If you're in LA, go to Roscoe's. You'll love it, I'm telling you. Paul Egan's travel secretary for the Colorado Rockies took me there. It was outstanding.
Paul knows all the good spots. There's the 0-1 on Nolan. Outside. Arenado a booming double to right center to drive in a run in the first. Struck out in the third. We're told you have an option. You get cheese or syrup.
I'm all over the syrup part. On a 1-2 count to Tulowitzki, he went to a hard breaking ball. If he goes back to that with Nolan. Nolan scalded that fastball early in the ball game for a double. Excuse me, yeah, it was a double. I wrote down triple because I thought he should have gotten a triple, but it was a double. Going right back in with the fastball, shortchanged it in front of the plate.
Two, and that's a slider nubbed out with some English to Shields. Low throw, and Alonso picked it.
Well, some pitchers run it over, some pitchers fire it, some throw that hard sinker. He got a hold of it in a hurry. He fired a bullet over there, but they short hopped Alonso and he came up with it.
Cargo pop out and a walk. 2 outs, nobody on. Rockies up 3-2. Again, Cargo, I would say more than half of his at-bats, probably 2/3 of his at-bats, he's been started with some sort of off-speed pitch. Slider, changeup.
Well, a lot of times when guys are struggling at the plate, they cheat on the fastball. They go early to get after the fastball. So as a result, pitcher's going to counter that if you have the ability to do it. Throw something soft early in the count, try to get him to roll over. They've got the big shift on, as Drew mentioned.
6 straight out of the zone from Shields to Gonzalez. Give in with the fastball. He threw that cutter. Good numbers against Shields. 2-1. And this ball's hit hard, but into the shift. Amarista's over there. And it's a 1-2-3 inning, the first of the night for James Shields. So we'll go to the 7th inning. The Rockies 3, the Padres 2. Coming up, the 20th anniversary of Coors Field, and who will ever forget the 07 playoff game, play-in game. One of the great games in the history of the sport. And Matt Holliday dives in. Controversy whether he touched home plate. Who cares? The Rockies moved on. One of the great comebacks you'll ever see. Jamie Carroll, man, first time out of the game for Jamie. And
he's working as a special assistant for somebody.
His brother, I believe, still the head coach at Evansville. He was the coach of Kyle Freeland, who's one of the Rockies' top prospects. Justin Upton, this is just the second time this year that a Rockies pitcher has worked, a starting pitcher has worked into the 7th inning. The other time was opening day when Kendrick worked 7 complete innings against the Brewers.
14 of 22 first pitch strikes.
12
ground ball outs, 4 fly ball outs, and a couple of strikeouts.
It feels like the Rockies have had the upper hand in this game, but it's just a 1-run affair, 3-2. Upton, Alonso, and Norris here in the 7th.
Well, make sure that you tune in to MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is celebrating 13 years. How about that? Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD, real-time highlights, live look-ins, and more. Blackout and other restrictions do apply. Visit MLB.TV for detail. He is a special assistant for Clint Hurdle and the Pirates. Jimmy Carroll.
There's a couple of former Rockies good guys who had good long careers that I think have just departed the game. I believe Mark Ellis, I think, is done now too.
He has retired. Mark's out of the game. Yeah. Well, he's not playing. Last year struggled, hit below 200. Was left off the playoff roster by the St. Louis Cardinals, replaced by Pete Cosmo.
They got every ounce out of their ability.
Sure they did. Well, they played a long time in the big leagues because they played the game the right way.
2-2 on Upton. Henry sets up away and painted away. Beautifully done by Kendrick. When he's on his game, you're seeing a lot of what you've seen tonight. Well located two-seamers.
Well, very good fastball outside corner. Upton thought the ball was low. Caught the bottom half of the zone and right on the outside part of the plate where he couldn't do a whole lot with it.
We'll bring up Yonder Alonso. Single and a ground ball to Justin Morneau. That ball's lined cleanly to right for a base hit. Derek Norris. Hit into a 5-4-3 double play in the second. Also a fly ball to center field. Ground ball past Arenado down the line. Alonso to third, and Alonso's going to get a green light, and he's going to score. Dickerson had trouble picking it up, and this game's tied. A run-scoring double by Derek Norris.
Now, that's how this Padre team's been all year long. A couple of swings of the bat, and they get right back in the middle of the game. Norris hit that big double last night to put his ball club out on top, and here he comes up against Kyle Kendrick. Looks like a sinker running down on that inside corner of the plate. Tried to open that front side, just shot it by Arenado. When it got all the way down there in the corner, see that ball's going to tail and roll into that corner. And as Dickerson got over there, he tried to pick the ball up here, fumbled it a little bit, then had to regroup, grab the baseball. I'm not sure he'd have had Alonso anyway.
There was no error given. Straight double and an RBI for Norris. And now you got to bear down and keep it even. You have Will Middlebrooks at the plate. 1 for 2. Runs are even, hits are even. On the corner for a strike. Low. One and two. Middlebrooks is a Texas kid. We told the story how he had an opportunity to play both football and baseball at Texas A&M in College Station. One of his high school coaches in both sports was his dad. Taught his son well.
Very quickly, Scott Oberg had started to throw in the Rockies bullpen, and Thayer in the Padre bullpen.
Just 72 pitches. How about that for Kendrick here with 1 out in the 7th?
Outstanding outing. I mean, it goes back to those old days. I mean, you give up 3 at Coors Field, and this inning's not over. I get that, but you better win a lot of those games.
Ground ball, pass. Oh, Tulo comes up with it. Out at first base. That looked like he was ticketed for center field. Troy reached out, not only gloved it, but he gets the out at first.
Yeah, outstanding play by Troy. I mean, that's a guy with some gold gloves hanging on his mantle also. Ball hit pretty hard. 2 hops. He takes a step, dive. It hits the glove up to the feet and a snap toe to first. Well, an outstanding job. The Subaru Supermo gives you a great look at this. And Troy able to feel that ball hit the glove, comes right back up, and then fires it over to Justin Morneau for the out.
Boy, that was outstanding. 2 outs, and Amarista is at the plate. Corey Spangenberg has come out to hit for Shields. If it gets that far, hopefully it doesn't. Amarista twice has hit it on the ground on the right side. Smallest guys in the game in stature, Amarista, along with Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve has now flown up the baseball chart rankings of best players in the game after his performance a year ago for Houston.
Over 200 hits a year ago for Houston.
He can run. He can pick it. Both Altuve and Amarista are at 5'5".
Yeah, big pitch here. 1-1 count. Get ahead, it just opens up the rest of your arsenal if you get this strike 2.
Two and one. Go ahead run at third, Derek Norris. Rockies blown out on Monday 14-3. Last night the Padres came from behind and won 7-6. Part of the Padres early season story. They've come from behind a few times already this year. 6 times in fact. That's a strike. 2-2.
See, that's nice when you're able to throw that cutter, and he's done a good job of that. He's got a couple of punch outs with it down and away at 88. Try to see where they're going to head with this one. That cutter was away. Trying to see where McKendry tries to go as he sets up here. Going to come inside with the breaking ball. Bounce, did not get the swing. So you have a veteran guy on the mound. You got a guy that can slap the baseball and run, although you really have to respect his power to some extent. But you have confidence in a veteran to throw the changeup with the breaking ball here. He went changeup. He shook off and go to the curveball.
3-2. Kendrick, a native of the Pacific Northwest. He was a two-sport athlete. Terrific high school football player. Good quarterback. On the corner, nope, just off. So Amarista walks, and that'll bring up the pinch hitter, Corey Spangenberg.
If the pitch count is deeper, and I mean beyond 80 right now, if it was in the 90s, Walt would probably go get Kendrick here, but with only 80, they will allow him to face the young left-handed hitting Spangenberg, and this is a guy that can swing the bat. Had a double last night coming up.
And Shields didn't throw a lot of pitches either. He gets removed after 6 innings and 78 pitches. You got to worry about Amarista running. On the corner, a strike on Spangenberg. Line drive, base hit left field. The Padres take the lead. Amarista to third. Dickerson did a good job cutting that off. It'll still be a double for Spangenberg. So back-to-back ball games, back-to-back pinch hit doubles for Corey Spangenberg, and the Padres, down by a couple of runs a couple of innings ago, have caught past the Rockies here in the 7th.
Now Walt contemplating right now. I mean, it's a difficult decision. This guy carried you all the way into the 7th inning. There's the breaking ball. Tell you what, you didn't see any of his feet move. Their hands just stayed back, but he's got a very strong swing. And he slapped that into left center. And you're right. I mean, Corey Dickerson did a game save there, because otherwise there's going to be another run come across. That ball squirts by him, maybe even 2. Crazy. Good hustle by Dickerson.
So Will Myers, who homered in the 6th inning on a 3-2 pitch, is up there. There are 2 more runners in scoring position. Seven hits for the Padres, 5 in the last 3 innings. 3 hits and a walk here in the 7th. Two misses. It's 2-0.
Kyle Parker has hit a home run. Albuquerque up early, top of the first, 2-0.
That 4 strike zone. Both those pitches could easily have been called strikes too.
No question. Well, and the thing is, if you're managing this ball club, you know, this guy has worked into the 7th inning. Yeah, it's a 4-3 ball game, but it's for him to lose this ball game. He's up 3rd. I mean, that's you're saying, well, go get him, bring Oberg in. You're talking about a rookie. You know, Steve Foster and Walt talking. I mean, you know, let him. If he's going to give up these 2 runs, let it be him to do it.
Pulled. Oh, Arenado just stole 2 runs. Nolan Arenado just saved 2 runs.
Isn't that a beautiful thing to watch? Holy cow.
Tulowitzki and Jem earlier. Look at this play by Arenado.
Yep. Tulowitzki and Arenado left side locked that thing down.
#1 volume Lexus dealer. Rockies were down 1-0. Dickerson in the bottom of the first tied it up, his 3rd home run of the year. They'd get another run in that first inning on this double by Nolan Arenado to right center field. As Morneau comes around. Rockies would have a 3-1 lead, but it's all gone as Spangenberg comes off the bench, doubles in the go-ahead run. And the Padres lead at 4-3. If not for an unbelievable play by Nolan Arenado, who's made 3 or 4 gems tonight, it would probably be 6-3 right now.
Yeah, and he made that play, and they'll turn it over to Dale Thayer, the hard-throwing right-hander, out of their bullpen. He got a little bit of an unorthodox type delivery. McHenry 0 for 1 in his career versus Thayer. DJ LeMahieu will follow. There's 1 for 8 against Thayer in his career. The overall numbers, 135 earned run average for Mr. Thayer.
And a good start. Tying run aboard as McHenry singles.
Great start. Second hit for Michael. He had a double in the first. Yeah, one more look. He got ahead with the fastball. Came back trying to run the sinker inside. Good clearance by Mike to take that front side of those hips, get him out of the way on having a line drive. Base hit back up the middle. Enoa has stepped out into the on-deck circle for the Rockies. Remember, their bench is short with the extra man in the bullpen now. And Willeen Rosario shipped to the minor leagues tonight to Albuquerque.
DJ shows bunt. The corners crash. That doesn't mean bunt will still be on. Stu Cole going through his signs. Runner going, and McHenry has his second stolen base of the year. You want to talk about a sneak attack? Raise your hand if you thought McHenry was going to go.
I can't. Yeah, second one on the year for McHenry, flashing that speed with the head first slide.
Well, he's their stolen base leader for the Rockies, Michael McHenry.
But it changes the entire inning now. They're trying to bunt him over into scoring position. He's there.
Well, you can let DJ do what he does best, go the other way if you want. He's going to lay a bunt down. It's going to go foul.
DJ, a guy can handle the bat a lot. Stu Cole taking direction from Walt Weiss out of the dugout with those signs. Exford's been warming up down in the Rockies bullpen. They've got the left Garza going in the bullpen now for the Padres. DJ trying to take it to that opposite side. Didn't get it there. Change that back. It's not Garza, it's Rarick. Right-hander Maurer, who we saw last night, threw the ball 100 miles an hour. And John Axford, welcome back, buddy.
Night in and night out, nobody's put together better at bats than DJ LeMahieu so far this year for the Rockies. RBI double in the second. The 10 RBIs. Hitting at the bottom of the lineup. Last year he led the National League in RBIs out of the 8th spot.
Yeah, you leave anything out over the plate at all, and there's a pretty good chance it's not going to be a good inning for you with DJ because he has such a great back control.
Nobody out, tying run at second, and McHenry single and a stolen base of all things. Dale Thayer out of Chico State. McHenry thought about moving up. Norris kept it in the neighborhood. Wise decision by the Rockies catcher to stay put.
Last night a ball squirted away up the first base side and Norris able to grab and throw the base runner out. So it's a very good block guy and a very good strong arm behind home plate. So difficult to advance on him unless the ball gets way away.
You know, in a tight game you always look at the little things, and this is to the right side, and they're going to throw it across the diamond. McHenry's out. That's a play. When you take infield, from the time you're 10 years old, the first baseman throws to the third baseman, and it happens about once a year, and you just witnessed why.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Drew. I mean, you know, McHenry, the ball's hit to the right side, but you got to understand, they know that if the ball's hit extremely hard, I'm coming to third base. This ball was hit really hard. 2 skips right at Alonso, and then he fires it over to third base to Middlebrooks. He's able to get McHenry. As soon as that ball's hit, Mac takes off as hard as he can. The throw comes over, and then a tag applied.
Well, I was pointing out the little things in the game. DJ at first, and I'm sure he'll be the first to tell you, he was at second base with nobody out in the second inning. The Rockies, this ball slapped to third. Middlebrooks gets it out there on the first safe. The DJ was at second, tried to steal third with nobody out, and was thrown out. And at the time, you had Kendrick at the plate. Okay, he's the pitcher, but coming up obviously at the top of the order. At worst, you'd have had one out. Blackman and Dickerson an opportunity to give you a 3-run lead early.
Absolutely. And here's another look at the hustle of Inoa. Did he beat it? You bet. Barely, but he beat it. Well, Walt's going to go out and question the second base umpire, Marvin Hudson.
Did he not get the bag? I mean, usually get the neighborhood play at second. Let's see where Solarte is. Well, his foot is not on the bag.
No, it's not on the bag at all.
Yeah, his foot doesn't appear to be on the bag, at least. Let's look at this angle.
Yeah, you know, tough to see off of that one, but. Yeah,
wow.
Forgot to be on the bag, didn't he?
That's again, it's called the neighborhood play to protect the middle infielder. Sometimes, you know, if they swipe the bag early, they're going to get all. Good job by Walt. He's going to get the group together.
There, here you go. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're running back to their spots, so they talked about it and they say no, it's going to hold. It's my guess is, and there's so many changes that it's not that the neighborhood play must not be reviewable.
I don't think it is reviewable. But I thought anything beyond the seventh, of course, you're not beyond, you're in the bottom.
Yeah, a force play could be challenged, excluding the neighborhood play. That's why they talked about it, but they didn't go and say, hey, New York, what did you see?
Right.
And you understand Walt's point. I mean, there was no effort to swipe at the bag at any point in time.
Like a lot of guys, I mean, Walt did the same thing playing shortstop. A lot of times straddle the bag and, you know, kick it with a heel, but he didn't kick it. He didn't get any part of it.
Charlie could just hit one in the seats and we could forget about that whole thing. Out in front, it's 0-2. League hit just .215 against Thayer last year, and they're hitting all of .217 so far this year.
Tried to throw the split finger, tried to get him to chase it after he swung and missed. That one just bounced into the dirt. Derek did a nice job, Norris, of blocking the ball.
Two and two. Charlie's home run this year came at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, coming in, trying to go into the bat of Charlie Blackmon, overamped the slider.
Trying to move up, Noah. Great throw by Norris out at second.
Second time he's done it 2 nights in a row. And he's been able to recover the baseball on a wild pitch and make the snap throw to second base. And he does it here again on the slider. Squirts away, and now a move. Tag applied. 4-3.
The defense of Nolan Arenado. He's been sensational, well, every night. But tonight, heading back up. He had the great start to the double play a moment ago. We'll throw in some Tulo also. How about that play? And look at this one. That saved 2 runs. That kept it a 1-run game last inning. As good as it gets, Nolan Arenado. Had a lot of energy, George. He was out of the lineup yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I don't care whatever night it is. This guy makes play after play after play at third base.
Welcome back, John Axford. Great to have you back. And most importantly, glad that little Jameson is on his way to the recovery from the rattlesnake bites suffered about 5-6 weeks ago in Scottsdale. He's made 1 appearance. It was a save in Milwaukee. Solarte at the plate, 2, 3, and 4. And there's that good fastball. Axford, though not with the club, was throwing, keeping the arm in shape. That's why he was able to come right off the restricted list and step onto a big league mound. 2 hops at Troy, 1 out.
Yeah, just kind of like you anticipated. There pitches the 7th. Benoit's warming up to pitch the 8th.
Matt Kemp tonight 0 for 3. Couple ground outs against Kendrick and a fly ball. Kyle goes 7 innings for the 2nd time this year. Allows 4 runs on 7 hits. He walked 1 and struck out 3. 86 pitches over 7 innings. Rockies throw 3 on the left side with Kemp.
$20,000 fans through the gates on this Friday is going to receive a Colorado Rockies tote bag courtesy of MLB Network. Get your tickets for that ball game. The Giants will be in town. First time we'll get a look at those guys here in Denver. Saw them last weekend in San Francisco, they didn't like us, but we really liked them, Dougie.
Chilly night at 20th at Blake. Rockies down 4-3 in the top of the 8th inning. John Axford with a 1-1 count on Matt Kemp. Plus fastball. Axford still has 96 on that heat.
No, he throws hard. There's no question about it. I mean, and you go back and look last year. He was still working at a closer's role and had a rough week. They took him out of it. 46 saves in a Brewers uniform.
Big John and his family make their home outside of Toronto. Good look at the shift.
See, and it's set up differently for the outfield. The outfield's playing more into right center. Charlie Blackmon is. Where your infield's on the pull side. So what that amounts to, ball hit on the ground. If he hits it on the ground, typically he's going to roll it over and hit it to the left side of the infield. If he hits the ball in the air, he has a tendency to drive the ball into the right center field gap. So that's why you see Cargo and Charlie both pinching into that area.
Got it. With that curveball. A strikeout at Kemp. Good sequence from John Axford. 2 outs.
Now get him to chase. He's able to fight off some pretty good pitches in this at bat. And John comes back with that nasty hook. No shot to hit this thing. Boy, what a yellow hammer. 12-6. Very good curveball. Got out on that front foot. Get him to extend and chase.
Upton right back at Axford. John's got time. Terrific inning in his return for John Axford. Now the Rockies have to get the bats going. They'll see Joaquin Benoit when we return. 4-3 Padres. Four to 3. They had a 3-1 lead early. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. It'll be the top of the order for Colorado. The day after every Rockies victory, get 50% off your online order at Papa John's. The promo code is ROCKSWIN. Find it at papajohns.com. That must be our crew eating tonight.
Absolutely. I think it was last year. They just crushed that. Remember when they had all of them come over? That was a pretty nice night right there. Benoit comes on here to pitch the 8th inning against the Colorado Rockies. He'll get Charlie Blackmon to lead it off. Blackmon 2 for 3 in his career versus Benoit. Dickerson 0 for 0, and then Tulowitzki will follow. He's 1 for 2. That one hit a home run. 3-0 record over 9 ball games for him. A 1 earned run average straight up. 9 innings thrown.
37-year-old Joaquin Benoit of the Dominican Republic, Santiago area.
He's got a really good arm. He can run it up into the mid-90s. That last fastball 95, split finger curveball cutter. Left-handers, he likes to use the split finger. Try to get them out. Infield shift on for Charlie on the right side.
Ball and a strike on Blackmon, 0 for 3 tonight. Adam Ottavino hoping that he is pitching after the Rockies rally here to take the lead. Rockies have lost 5 straight. 3-run lead last night. Couldn't hold it, lost 7-6. They had a 2-run lead tonight. Kyle Kendrick, who for the most part threw the ball well, unable to hold it in the 7th. He gave up 2 in the 7th, 1 in the 6th, and it's a 4-3 Padre lead. 2 balls and a strike on Blackmon.
Well, I'm not sure what this pitch was. Change up at 84. He normally throws a split, but this is a circle change. He really got to the inside of the baseball, not anywhere near where Norris wanted it, but he got a swing and miss out of Charlie on it.
See that ball dive about 10 miles an hour off his fastball. Charlie out in front, 2-2. And he went change up again. He located that one out.
The Rooftop, the place to be during baseball season. Arrive early for pregame festivities and beer specials before the first pitch. There's a huge crowd up there tonight watching the ball game here with the Rockies and Padres, as there is every night.
Dickerson, a home run in the first, a ground ball to second, and a walk for Corey. This is hard for guys who can hit it out of the ballpark, George, but you have to suspend the thought of trying to tie it up with one swing.
Just play. I mean, you know what? Home runs happen. The great ones, like a Barry Bonds, yeah, he can go up there thinking home run, and he can hit it a country mile. There's very few of those guys around. Just think about hitting the ball hard. The home run will happen. If you hit the ball hard and you get under it just a little bit, but if you start to overswing, that's when you play into the hand of a guy like Benoit, what Charlie just threw back-to-back changeups to him.
2-0 on Corey. Tulowitzki on deck. He got a fastball and he got a good swing off.
Well, last night Benoit threw the 7th inning and he faced Dos Caso and Noah and then Charlie Blackmon hit a line shot to right field.
Padres won 77 games last year. This was their specialty, 1-run games. They had the best mark in baseball at 33-21 last year. So far this year they're 4-2.
I think the only time Bud Black felt comfortable in his game was with a lead late in the 8th and 9th inning. Just because they had scored a lot of runs, but if you knew you had that 1-run lead, like you talked about, the bullpen was very good.
He told me yesterday that they've developed so many good relievers that through the years we've talked about, you know, the Mike Adams and the Qualls and all the guys they've had, and they've had to pitch so well under pressure because it was so unusual to have a real comfortable lead. It was always a 1-run game.
Never had one.
You had no margin for error, and that toughened up a lot of those late inning guys. 3-1 here. Didn't give in with the fastball.
Wow, changeup. I mean, I know Dickerson going, how did you just throw that to me? Put it in a very good location, outside corner. A lot of movement on the baseball. Corey started to commit, and then he just able to lock it down. Once you get all your power extended that far, it's going to be difficult to hit the ball with a whole lot of authority once those hands start coming forward that far.
3-2 on Dickerson. This ball's well hit center field. Did he catch it all? You bet! Tie ball game. Corey Dickerson strikes again.
RBIs, 4 home runs for Corey Dickerson. And Benoit made the challenge, and he answered it. His first career hit against Joaquin Benoit, and it is a big one here in the 8th inning. The long ball hit out in left center field. Benoit knew it. He grabbed the dirt. He's going to look for the flight, but he knew that sound, just like Corey Dickerson knew the sound with the back flip. And then got into that soft jog at first base.
Out of the lineup yesterday, battling plantar fascia. And he's come back with a vengeance tonight. A 3-2 fastball. George, he blistered it.
You know, did he ever? Ball
that
was
wasn't a fastball, actually.
Now, change up, and it was up into the zone. Benoit went back to the same pitch he did on Charlie. Corey, a very smart hitter. He left that change up, and it went up and away.
Third time in his young career he's hit 2 home runs in a game. Both home runs tonight, George, to the deepest portion of the ballpark.
He's a strong guy. I mean, he's got a lot of power.
Leads the club with 4 jacks. One and 2 on Troy. Double back in the 3rd.
Not only does he lead the club with those 4 home runs, also leads in RBIs with 12 now. Troy was 1 for 2 against Benoit. That one hit a home run.
Nice job by Troy to cover that. One out. The Rockies have tied it at 4 here in the 8th. Trying to find a way to end this 5-game slide. Benoit pulls the string and strikes out Tulowitzki.
Yeah, another changeup, which depends. He's got a couple. He throws the circle, and he throws the split. This is going to be the split coming right out of the hand at 85 miles an hour, and it's had a lot of sink to it at the very end. Got Tulo out on that front side.
That's so hard to cover, George. I mean, you got the guy can touch 97, 98 still, and he's flipping up the.
Yeah, and it's not a straight change. It's not a circle change because he throws that too. He'll use that against left-handers, but right-handers kind of strange. He'll go to the split finger.
Here's Morneau, 1 for 3 tonight.
And Ottavino is loose, prepared to come out to pitch the ninth. If the Rockies could get one up on top or stay tied, either way, he's going to be in this game.
Fouls it off the facade of the 3rd deck. Crowd of 22,705 tonight on a Wednesday night. tomorrow's afternoon affair. No television. That's out of play. Tyson Ross and Jordan Lyles tomorrow. Two big sturdy right-handers. Those two guys who love hockey, DJ LeMahieu and Justin Morneau. I know you did like I did last night, George. Stayed up till about 12:30 watching that Blackhawks Nashville 3 overtime game.
It was hard, but I watched every bit of it.
Great game. This is a good one. 4-4 here in the 8th. Any way you can get a piece of it, right?
That was emergency, 94 mile an hour up.
The double emergency hack?
Yeah, that's double emergency type hack right there. I mean, that's, man, you're looking at this thing, you're thinking, I know it's a changeup. Oh, high fastball. Just able to get a piece of it.
Todd Helton, if he's looking in, would smile. Huh?
We had a little bit of the walkthrough.
Yeah. Nobody had a better emergency hack than Helton.
I just never figured out how he took the back foot slider when it's about to hit him on the big toe and foul it off over the seats.
You have the bat perpendicular to the ground. Bouncing ball to second. That'll end the inning, but the Rockies have gotten even. Corey Dickerson took a changeup over the center field wall, his second home run of the ball game, and he ties it up at 4. We'll go to the 9th to 20th at Blake. To you by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. And by Mike Shaw Subaru, always our lowest price and sales and service guarantees. Rockies 4, Padres 4. We go to the 9th inning. Adam Ottavino on the bump. But first, let's get a preview of what's to come after the ball game with Mark Stout in center field. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Drew, yeah, we've got the Toyota postgame show coming up. The Rockies trying to beat the streak because they've lost 5 in a row. They've tied it up. Let's hope that they can rally and win this one. Hashtag Corey Shield. Did you see that infield defense? Well, you will in the postgame. And Corey Sullivan's going to be in the clubhouse. That is what's coming up. Let's go back to Drew and George, guys.
Mark, thank you. So 0 is an appropriate number, George, for Adam Ottavino to wear, because 0 is what you get.
Yeah, he's been throwing up a lot of zeros. A couple of save opportunities, completed those. 7 ball games so far, 7 in the third, 12 punch outs. He's walked 1 batter.
Is 12 to 1 a good ratio?
Well, the lefties haven't got a hit and the other side's hitting 0.71. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yonder Alonso takes the ball. First pitch out of the hand at 96. It'll be 95 to 98. And then the Bugs Bunny slider, the wiffle ball slider, 3 different varieties. There was one of them, and it's outside 2-0. Kendrick and Shields, the starting pitchers tonight. Kyle Kendrick worked 7 innings for the second time this year. 4 runs, 7 hits, a walk, and 3 punch outs. Shields gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. Good fastball. He's fouled off. It's 2-1.
And Alonso has seen him 3 times in his career. It's 1 for 3. Had a single against Ottavino. Norris has never faced him. He'll be up next. Nor has Middlebrooks.
To third, tough hop. Arenado flat-footed. Throws out Alonso.
You guys are going to learn sometime, sooner or later, you just don't hit it that way. Just don't do it.
Special talent. Time for the CenturyLink link to what's next. Here's the Rockies' upcoming schedule as we move into the month of May. The Giants are here over the weekend. And then the Rockies will be in Phoenix for 3, an off day in San Diego. That always stinks. And 3 against the Padres. And then it's back home as they're in the midst of 25 in a row against the NL West. How about the matchup tonight? Ooh, look at it. The matchup tonight between the Dodgers and Giants. Kershaw and Bumgarner. The first time in Major League history that the reigning MVP is facing the guy who was the World Series MVP.
Yeah, 0-0 through 3.
Did you think it was going to be 8-8?
Well, the way it's gone early for Bumgarner and Kershaw, you never know.
He looked a lot more like Kershaw when the Rockies were in town. Derek Norris takes a strike, 1-1. Derek looked at Jim Joyce and goes, that sounded like a strike, was it?
Well, I got a little bark coming out of their dugout, too. I think it's Mark Kotze. As Jim Joyce turned around and gave him the dead stare.
There's the slider, and it's popped up in front of the mound. And Nolan comes down and makes the catch. And that's ideally what you'd like to see happen. You don't want to see the catcher turning around and backpedaling into the field of play. It's a difficult proposition for a catcher.
Normally when this ball gets to that first base side, I mean, when you draw the line up here, the first baseman will be the guy to come over and tick it off. But Nolan was coming hard all the way and caught it about halfway up the first base line.
2 outs and Will Middlebrooks. The Rockies in the bottom of the 9th will have Arenado, Cargo, McHenry.
And you got to remember, if you're just joining the telecast too, the Rockies made a big roster moves today. William Rosario was sent to AAA. Troy Hawkins was put on the disabled list. Axford and Oberg were brought back to bolster the bullpen. So the bench is down to 4. And now 3, because Inoa has gone ahead and pinch hit here. There are the transactions today that the Rockies made with the roster updates. If you're thinking, hey, where's Rosario? We could use him in the bottom of the 9th to pinch hit. He's not here now.
And Walt emphasized before the game that it had nothing to do with what Willeen did, because he actually was performing well coming off the bench.
Well, he had options. That was the difficult part of it. He had some options left. And based how they set up defensively, you couldn't take away any Noah and other players on this team. They had to be here. McHenry does not have options. You couldn't send him down without putting him through waivers. Somebody's going to take him. He's your backup catcher.
Stubbs the same deal, and he's your only backup outfielder.
So, I mean, your hands were kind of tied. It was the only choice they had. Ottavino, 13 scoreless straight inning appearances dating all the way back to September the 7th last year.
2 outs, a 2-2 count on Middlebrooks here in the 9th. Tied at 4. And this is popped up. Morneau. And another outstanding inning from the Rockies closer, Adam Ottavino. Rockies need just 1 as we go to the bottom of the 9th. Who Wants Tacos? Fans follow @RootSports_RM on Twitter to receive alerts for the Rockies taco special when the Rockies score 7 or more runs. In the 9th inning, the Padres will hand the baseball to Sean Kelly. And the first man up for Colorado, Nolan Arenado, who has had an outstanding game on defense, pretty good on offense, an RBI double back in the first.
Not many have seen Kelly, who came over from the New York Yankees in the offseason. So here's another right-hander coming out of the bullpen, predominantly a setup man. Has struggled somewhat in the beginning here, 5 Ks in 5 innings, but he has walked 4. Left-handers, a home run and .364 average against.
And there's a left-hander on deck in Carlos Gonzalez. Arenado, Gonzalez, McHenry.
Gonzalez, Hundley, Morneau, Rosario, and Stubbs are the only ones that have seen Kelly, and none of those players have a hit against him.
Line drive, right center field, get down, it will, in front of Matt Kemp. And the winning run aboard in Nolan Arenado.
Staying totally away from Nolan's power, inner half, so he takes the ball away from him. Nolan makes him pay. Fastball right on the outside corner knees. Nolan, that patent swing where he comes down over the top of that baseball, keeps his head right on the fly to the ball, and drives it into right field. Good at bat, Nolan Arenado.
So Cargo comes up. Chance to get rid of what's been a frustrating 2 weeks. 0 for 2 tonight and a walk. High, ball 1. Cargo 4 for his last 38 at the plate. Touches the corner, 1-1.
Padres are one of the few teams that take their third baseman, even though he's the only guy on the left side, to keep him on the grass.
1-2. I don't understand, George, the logic in that. I know you want to take away the bunt.
Yeah, and he may back
but there
up
was already 1 strike, which really diminished the likelihood that Cargo would bunt. I understand it without a strike, especially the way he's been struggling, but 1-2. Henry on deck. LeMahieu after that. Lead single for Arenado. .44, bottom of 9. Get back.
Yeah, you can't mess around. Norris is not scared to throw to any base, I can tell you that.
And the Rockies have run into a couple outs already on the base pass tonight.
And one last night where the ball squirted away a little bit. I can see the breaking ball into the dirt, but I'm telling you, Norris is a great blocker of the baseball. And he's not afraid to throw it after he blocks it either. If he thinks he has a chance at you, he's going to take it. Nolan blew out his belt, so Keith Duggar, the man of everything, is going to have to give it up right here.
Give up his own belt.
Yeah. Give up the belt, get it set up.
Three and 2 on Cargo. Something tells me, George, that Kelly's not going to give in with a fastball here.
No, I mean, why would you? I mean, he's more of a breaking ball guy anyway. He's not an overpowering fastball. I mean, he can get it in the low 90s, but the slider and the curveball, his 2 big pitches for outs. mention, Gonzalez has seen him before. He's 0 for 1 in his career.
So here we go, 3-2. Arenado leads off first, nobody out. He went off speed and he struck out Cargo. 1 out.
Yeah, that's kind of his makeup here. There's it is. I mean, it's just a slider that he took something off of. What's the curveball? It just had a little bit of late dip as it crossed the plate area. Cargo was hoping that foul tip would prevent the catch by Norris. It didn't.
McHenry with a double and a single tonight in 3 at-bats. He also has a stolen base, the club leader with 2. Huge gap in left center field. And that's where the ball goes. Myers has a long run. Arenado to third, and he'll stop there. 3rd hit of the night for Michael McHenry.
Well, I tell you what a huge plus that is to have your backup catcher that's catching 1, maybe 2 days a week come up with a 3-hit night. McHenry's night started with an average of 154. It's jumped to 294 after this line shot to left field. Off the arm of Kelly. That's out into the outfield. I tell you, Myers did a good job cutting that off, because when that ball's hit, that huge gap, you pointed it out, Drew. I thought Nolan might have a chance there if that ball got all the way, past Myers. The game's over.
Yeah,
he made a great save.
He did about 10 feet farther to the left. It's game over. So now, with 1 out, the Padres have to pull the infield in. The outfield needs to come in also, but they're sitting back deep. They're going to load it up, I would assume.
Yeah, you got to try to put the force everywhere. That's why you're doing this. You're just going to load it up. And then you're going to take your shot. Those Castle's coming out in the on-deck circle.
It'll be a great opportunity for Daniel. He's had minimal opportunity to have an impact since putting on the Rockies uniform. To have a huge impact tonight. Bud Black is going to go out.
Yeah, he wants to make sure everybody's set up on what we're going to do here. All right, you're going to bring your outfield in, so you can be able to do it. See, Bud's going to try to direct them a little bit here to bring them in a little closer.
Is that what he's doing, or is he waving for a left-hander?
No, he's bringing him in. I'm not sure what he's going to do with it. He may bring Myers in and play him right behind second base.
Yeah, he's going to ask for a 5th infielder.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? He's got another pitcher coming in, too. He's got Garces coming in. Or maybe not. Garces, you know what? Jim Joyce is saying, no, he was just calling Will Myers.
Yeah, he was just kidding you. Going back out there.
It was Rearick, the other left-hander.
I thought he wanted me to play mid first. What he's telling Will Myers here, you're going to play right behind second. The ball's hit to you. Okay, I got to have coverage everywhere. All right, we got to have coverage all around the bases. So we're going to block every hole possible here. Now Myers went to first. Alonso's off a little bit off the bat. So now,
and that makes sense, because obviously Alonso's more used to fielding ground balls than Myers, and now they're going to switch gloves.
Myers is just going to switch glove. Here, take my outfield glove, play right there. Don't worry about it.
You know what? I don't know if I've ever. He's going to get another glove right now. And look at Myers going, listen, I'm not comfortable with the first base glove. Just give me my outfield glove back.
You might want that back again, though. Got a little extra reach on there. You got Jed Jerko's second base glove.
One of the beautiful things about the game,
here we
you
go.
never know what you're going to see. So 5 infielders. The 2 outfielders are Kemp in right center, Upton in left center. 1 out, bases loaded, winning run at third in Arenado. 4-4, bottom of 9. Sean Kelly to Daniel Descalso.
Came right at him with the heater too at 92 miles an hour. Kemp's looking over at Upton going, and there's supposed to be somebody between us. Yeah, if you're thinking, if you're Daniel Descalso, just think up the middle. Fired on that first pitch fastball.
This ball line deep left field. That'll get it done. Daniel Descalso, walk-off winner. And the Rockies have snapped the 5-game slide. 5-4 Colorado. They win it in the bottom of the 9th. Then it's the newest Rocky getting it done.
Boy, you sure like to relieve that pressure and have some high fives. You got a great start tonight, and Kyle Kendrick going 7. They handed the ball to Axford, then to Ottavino. And big night for Descalso, for Nolan Arenado, who was outstanding. I mean, absolutely outstanding. At third base and also swinging it. And it's Descalso comes up with a 5-man infield, shoots this ball over the head of Justin Upton in left field. And that'll drive in Nolan Arenado, and the ball game is over. Boy, how sweet is that? Well, you sure like these handshakes at the end of a ball game, man. It makes it a lot nicer, a lot more fun. And a reshuffling of a roster today, it paid off with John Axford getting his opportunity, being reinstated to the ball club, and it's a W, man. Yeah, smiles everywhere. There should be.
Well, the Rockies win it. They end that 5-game slide back over 500, 8-7. And the man of the moment joins us via headset, Daniel Descalso. Daniel, you were aggressive from the first pitch. What'd you know about Sean Kelly?
You know, we've been...
Just what you want when it's 40.
That's cold.
Yeah, when it's 45 degrees out, not what you needed.
No, he'd been mixing that fastball and slider. I was looking for something out over the plate, make it be up, and get the ball to the outfield there.
Well, particularly with your infield in, you're thinking back up the middle, hit the ball hard, and let's have some fun with some handshakes.
Exactly. You want to be up there in that spot, game on the line, and just want to come through for your teammates and get a win. So that's a good win for us to come back late in the game. Big homer by Dickey, and then another rally in the 9th to win it.
You know, this was much needed, Daniel. You're accustomed to winning a lot of ball games with the St. Louis Cardinals. This team has a lot of talent. They get off to a great start, and then you hit the 5-game slide. Last night, tough to swallow. How would you describe this victory and how important it was for the club?
We talked earlier today that we needed to kind of turn things around. We got off to a hot start in Milwaukee, had a big sweep in San Francisco, and then things just weren't right once we went to LA and came back here. So, we pride ourselves on playing well at home, and we're able to right the ship tonight.
How tough is it, the role that you really been in throughout your career, where you're going to be asked sometimes late in the ball game to do exactly what you did, try to win a game or go play defense late in the ball game? How difficult is that role?
Somebody's got to do it, and I've come to embrace it. I try to do whatever I can to help the team win. Tonight it was coming off the bench, for a big pinch hit. Last night I double switched in the game, so just kind of be ready for whatever, and I've done it enough that I'm pretty comfortable with it.
Well, Daniel, well done tonight. Congratulations. Go get warm inside.
Yeah, freezing out here. Thanks, guys.
All right, you bet. Daniel Descalso, George, coming through, and the bottom line is, whether it was Descalso, whether it was a pitcher who had to pinch hit, the Rockies needed to win in the worst way.
Well, they did. And, you go back and you're looking at this ball game and you're thinking of all the defensive highlights that Nolan had at third base, the game-saving catch that he made there with second and third. That ball gets through. That's 2 more runs. Corey Dickerson, 2 big pressure home runs in this ball game. I mean, this was a well-played game. Michael McHenry, 3 hits. There are a lot of things went on in this game that guys did to win this ball game. And you kind of felt that tide. Kendrick's throwing good enough. He ought to get the win in this game. And all of a sudden you kind of get that ugly crawl in your stomach Yeah, because of what they've done lately as a ball club, coming from behind 7 times in the season. So, you know, to have this win, this is a big win, and it helps you sleep a little better tonight and get after tomorrow.
Yeah, and let's also not forget, having that shutdown guy in the 9th inning is very, very nice to have. Adam Ottavino, 1-2-3 inning, he gets the win. Our Jimmy John's delivery of the game, the first walk-off hit of Daniel Descalso's career. Out of Cal Davis, a lot of productive years with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he wins it for the Rockies in the bottom of the 9th inning as the Rockies have defeated the San Diego Padres tonight 5-4. To center field we go. Mark Stout, Jeff Houston. Gentlemen.
All right, thank you, Drew and George. Yes, a big win. The crowd is excited.
Nice.
I know Huey wanted to be up in that position with 5 infielders in. Daniel Descalso gets the job done. We're back for the Toyota postgame show next.